Good afternoon. This is the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners for October 24th, 2017. Today, the Board of County Commissioners are conducting a public hearing on the renewal of the interim marijuana cannabis regulations. So with that in mind, I'd like to start off by doing introductions, and I'll come back and do the purpose. To my left is Commissioner Gary Edwards. To my right is Commissioner John Hutchings. To his right is Labadina Bomar, Clerk of the Board. To her right is the County Manager, Ramiro Chavez. And to his right is Jeremy Davis, planner. And to his right is the Assistant County Manager, Robin Campbell. And my name is Bud Blake, and I'm the chair of the board this year. So today's public hearing, as I mentioned, is the renewal of the interim marijuana cannabis regulation. Today's subject hearing is to accept public testimony on an extension of the current interim regulations for state licensed marijuana cannabis producers, processors, and retailers. To be to the point, there are no changes in are proposed in this renewal. So for procedural purposes, there's a sign-in sheet at the back for the public that wishes to come to the podium to testify, and you'll have 3 minutes, and it'll be up here on the right on the wall. Up here is the clock. It'll start at 3 minutes and count down to 0. And when it gets to 0, you hear this kind of sound. That means that you're done with your 3 minutes. But if you're in mid-thought, I'll let you finish your thought so that it's polite and courtesy to be able to finish your thought. But I'll start asking you to finalize your thoughts, and then your time cannot be given to another person. So your 3 minutes is your 3 minutes. And so with that in mind, I'm going to ask Jeremy Davis to give us some background on the interim process, and then we might have some questions, and then I'll bring people forward for us testifying. Okay, Jeremy.
All right, Chair Blake, Commissioners, Jeremy Davis, Thurston County Resource Stewardship, Long Range Planning. As Chair Blake indicated, tonight we're here to hold a public hearing on the renewal of the current interim regulations that were last approved by the board this last May. There were some minor changes at that time. Interim regulations were first approved by Thurston County back in 2013. They've been renewed and amended about 10 times since then. I believe this will be the 10th or 11th time we've done so. The interim regulations cover producers, processors, and retailers in unincorporated Thurston County. Currently, they are limited to commercial industrial zoning districts. So right now, no new applications can be processed by the county in the 1 to 5 or other rural residential zoning districts. That's not proposed to change at this time. The county can renew interim regulations at 6-month intervals following a public hearing, a duly noticed public hearing. This public hearing was notified in the Olympian on September 30th. We followed that up with a press release on October 13th. And we also emailed a notice to all the folks on our email list and the marijuana email list on October 17th. We received 3 written public comments for tonight on this public hearing. The first of those written comments is from Mr. Mark Zorad. He's the number 1 on your comment list. Mr. Zorad had indicated issues with existing marijuana operations out in the rural residential area and is very concerned about their continuation and some of the ill effects that their neighbors have received on that. I forwarded that comment on both to permitting and on to environmental health for them to look into. The second comment tonight was from Kerry. He didn't give a last name, but he also affirmed Mr. Zorad's comments. And the third public written comment we received tonight was from David Lindblom, indicating that any production facilities should not be allowed anywhere in Thurston County. They should go to Colville. So with that, I'm ready for any questions the board might have on this. This renewal will go until May 8th, 2018, or until new regulations are adopted.
Any questions or comments from your end? Or
I do, yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Jeremy, you said that there's been 11 prior amendments or extensions and such?
Yes, sir.
And how many have we had on this board?
With this board, we had 1 approved this last spring, and we're hoping to get this done before we have to do it again.
That was in May?
That was in May of this year, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
No. My question to you is more along the lines of what the state has done. Is there any anticipated changes that you might see or hear of in this next session that would constitute more information for the next time if we were to adopt now?
Yes, sir. I believe there may be. They're currently conducting a study for individual recreational grow operations, and that study is to be given to the legislature, I believe, in the session coming up in 2018. We'll wait to see the results of that. Of course, we'll always advocate for allowing first local exemptions from that, so we have the option available to us.
Okay, and if you could, without, I don't know how specific you could be, how many producers, processors do we have and retailers separate in total? I'm picking your brain.
See if I remember right now.
Yeah.
I believe we have approximately 83 applications the county has received overall since 2013. We only had, I believe, two in this year for retailers.
Okay.
So if I remember correctly, I
I'm
could
just
be
looking
wrong.
for general numbers, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, great. Any other? Nope. Good. All right.
No.
With that in mind, I'll open it up for the public comment. And so it is first come, first serve. Who's signed in on this? I'll call you first and then come up to the thing. For those who are in the audience that did not sign up and wish to come, just let me know. I'll ask for you to raise your hand at that point in time, and I'll bring you forward, and then we'll work out the details in this for us. Write your name on the paper, what have you. So with the first person I have in mind is Christy White. Hi. Take your time. Come on up here, Christy. No? Okay, sure. Just kind of pull the mic down a little bit and then kind of tell us where you're from in the county generally, and then you got the floor. Go ahead.
Hi. Thank you, Commissioners, for allowing this public comment. Again, I appreciate it. My name is Christy White, and I live off of Delphi, up against Capitol Forest in Thurston County. So I won't read all of my comments. They're very similar to what I said before in the previous open comment meeting that we have. But I applaud you for still keeping this in light commercial. I am opposed to any sort of production, processing, selling, anything in rural areas. The impact to our environment is quite significant. The damage to groundwater, the smell, everything, it's not conducive to a rural environment, and I would continue to encourage the commissioners, do not do that. Seriously look at setbacks, anything that even approaches the rural zoning areas, because light commercial can agree to that or be close to that. The other concern I have is that by stalling it, continuing to stall, that those individuals who already, because of the way the state laws were written, who have grow operations next to them, to their rural homes, that how is that going to be rectified? Because the damage is significant to those individuals already suffering by having marijuana operations next to them, the value of their homes, et cetera, that you know, we really take a good hard look at that as a remedy that can be looked at for those individuals. So that's pretty much mine in a nutshell. So I have my comments for you that I'll give to you. And
Sure.
Again, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your words. All right, so the next person I have on my list, I'll just give it to the gentleman there, yeah. The next person I have is Mr. Jim Hayes. Hello, sir. How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Come on up here. So just, now you got to raise the mic a little bit.
We'll
There
bring
you
it
go.
back up.
Sure, okay. Just tell us where you're from in the county generally, and then you have the floor. Go ahead.
Sure. I grew up in Yelm, Washington here in the county.
Okay.
I tried to put together a little bit of my thoughts on the 6-hour drive over here today.
Oh, wow.
I'm a Tier 3 producer-processor in Thurston County, and I've been working on permitting since 2014 with many complications and delays. What concerns me is many of the complaints have come from my neighbor, who continues to make complaints about my company, some being the fear of groundwater contamination or non-permitted buildings, when in truth the neighbors are living in a non-permitted house with a non-permitted septic and many other non-permitted structures, which makes the complaint seem very hypocritical. Nevertheless, in efforts to comply with county codes and permitting, I made the decision to move my company's production to Eastern Washington for the 2017 grow season, thus putting me away from my family, my home, where I grew up. Even when putting an effort into moving my company to Eastern Washington, this somehow upset the neighbors once again. I feel that Thurston County has done a great job at creating a moving target of an ever-changing list of tasks that are very expensive and difficult to complete on time. Thurston County is only a third of what Pierce County has collected in taxes, even though Thurston County has more producer processors. Other counties, like Clark County, have double the collected taxes than Thurston County, despite having half the producer processors. This being because Thurston County making it so difficult with permitting and operations. However, in my time in Eastern Washington, throughout the grow season, it was an eye-opener for how marijuana industry has impacted the small towns in these counties. Since 2014, local stores have continued to see a steady increase in sales, and some are reporting up to 400% increases. Unemployment rates have decreased, and marijuana production has helped bridge the gap of the down seasons with agricultural workers in the surrounding orchards. The agricultural requirements are very similar to those of the orchards, with two of the main concerns also being two of the large differences in agricultural crops and marijuana. The first being water usage is much lesser in marijuana than standard ag crops, and the second being pesticide use. Pesticides used in marijuana are more heavily regulated by LCB and tested, and the products used are much safer than those used in standard ag food crops, which are what we eat every day. This is also true for ag floral industry, and these are plants and flowers we put in our house and around our homes. On average, marijuana companies pay over 40% greater than minimum wage, and seasonal growers in Eastern Washington on average spend over $170,000 on employment wages. Dollars I hope to pay out to employees here in Thurston County in the upcoming grow season. Thus would also help increase the surrounding community. This is a ton of dollars from every company that could stay here in Thurston County, but we're forcing companies like mine to move to other places where marijuana is thriving because these counties were accepting. Although the crop's not viewed as an agricultural crop by all, it's farming. My crop is so dependent on weather. I'm a hard worker. My hands are in the dirt. I'm a very small business owner. I'm an extremely hardworking dad, and all I'm trying to do is create a better future for my children with financial stability, and it's just very difficult to continue this process. So I hope that the county can come together and set it one way or the other. My neighbor once told me early on that this industry would consume my life. And although it's a job that I focus on every day, it's a job, it's a source of income, that's how I view it. I'm more concerned that this industry and my business has consumed my neighbor's life. And I think that no matter what the county decides, it's just going to make it a clear path for everyone who's involved with this.
Thank you so much for your work,
thank
sir.
you.
Very kind of you. All righty. So that completes my list of those who've signed in. Is there anybody who wishes to come to the podium? Just show me your hand, raise your hand, and come on up, and I'll take your testimony from there. I had a feeling. It's good to see you again. Can you state your name for me, please, and where you're from in the county?
My name is Michelle Hawkins Brigham, and I live next to Mr. Jim Hayes. So he was referring to me and my husband. I just wish to state that we've been working with the county for some time to permit our home. We have known since Mr. Hayes moved into his property that he was producing and processing marijuana before it was legalized. The marijuana smoke would fill our home. I acknowledge that the commissioners have continued with the changes made in the interim ordinance, and that zoning for marijuana production processing is only allowed in commercial or industrial areas at this point. And I apologize, I didn't prepare to speak tonight. I felt that I needed to after my neighbor spoke to you. But the reason we didn't, we have taken our time in bringing our home to code is because we didn't know what to do when these neighbors moved in next door to us. And it's been a struggle, but it has not consumed my life. I'm in the process of getting a master's degree at the Evergreen State College in environmental studies, and I will continue this fight because it's worthwhile. I hope Mr. Hayes finds success in Eastern Washington. We have never been against the production of processing marijuana or legalizing it in this state. We are for it, but there are appropriate places to do that. And it's not in rural residential areas. My apologies again. I did not prepare what I was going to say tonight. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for your words there, ma'am. Uh-oh, you okay? Okay, water. Good. So with that in mind, is there anybody outside in the public that'd like to come to the podium to be able to speak? Once, twice? Okay. And so with that in mind, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Mr. Chair, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and second to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, and that motion carries. What is the pleasure of the board? Option 1 or option 2?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve an ordinance renewing ordinance number 14944 as amended, which established interim regulations for state licensed marijuana producers, processors, and retailers for 6 months, effective November 8, 2017, the expiration of ordinance number 15465.
Second.
It's been moved and second as stated. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that motion carries also. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and second to adjourn the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and we are adjourned.